Welcome to the Live the Call podcast, where I speak with guests living and working their soul's purpose. I'm Pamela Downs, founder of Spirit Calling and trans-channeler of the Great Council of Light. Every episode, our guests share their awakening story, and together we learn how they came to live their spirit's call. Join me in tales of self-discovery, enlightenment, and transformation to amplify your healing journey.
And I would say the second big spiritual evolution in my life was when I actually started practicing on horses. And what would start to happen is I would put my hands on their body and they would start to show me images in my mind of like literally the inside of their body, like what was actually wrong. And then they would actually show me like the event that caused it. And then what made it even weirder for me is they would show me like the energetic connection to their human. And like sometimes that was good and sometimes it wasn't good.
Welcome to another episode of Live the Call. I'm Pamela Downs, your host, and today I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Dr. Tracy Rainwaters. Tracy is an expert in animal chiropractic care with nearly 2 decades of experience helping horses thrive, combining chiropractic experience, intuitive communication, and shamanic energy healing. She brings harmony to both horses and humans. It sounds amazing, Tracy. I can't wait to talk about it. She's also a fellow content creator on the upcoming new spiritual television network with me, the Ethereal Network. I'm so excited about that. And I can't wait to learn about your new show, The Wisdom of Their Voices. So today, we're going to explore Tracy's incredible work. We're going to hear about her, her waking up story and how she started listening to the divine and how that affected her life and created the work that she's doing today. So we want to welcome you, Tracy. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you too. I can't wait to hear about your work. And we all love animals as empaths and healers and humans, especially horses. There's something
Yeah,
about them. They have
they
this
are pure
strength.
magic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a kid, I always wanted to go horseback riding. I always wanted to do it.
Oh,
And we
nice.
and we and we never did it. Like it was something that my parents we just didn't do. And I didn't do it until I was an older, a much more mature woman. And
Yeah.
last year we went on vacation in Costa Rica, or not Costa Rica, sorry. Um, I can't remember, Cabo San Lucas.
Okay.
And I heard that there were horse rides on the beach. And I
Hmm.
had to do it. I had to do it. Like I couldn't wait to do it. I was so excited to do it. And it was the most amazing experience.
Oh,
The strength of them. Just you can just feel their energy. It's
hmm.
kind of amazing. So I'd love
Yeah.
to hear about how your journey started and
Yeah.
talk about the very beginning of it.
Yeah. Well, I really feel like animals are some of our greatest spiritual allies and spiritual teachers here on the planet. And I was born an absolutely horse obsessed, horse crazy little girl. Like, I truly can't remember a time in my life where I haven't been like just completely obsessed and enamored with horses. And I have to say, like, the entirety of the animal kingdom. And my story kind of goes in two parts. And really, I would say I feel like I fall into that category of probably, especially for being like a child of the 80s, kind of a strange kid. Like, I remember being very connected to my intuition as a small child and having out of body experiences that I actively remember from like a very young age. Like, I remember being in preschool, kindergarten, first grade, and not necessarily understanding how or why I was leaving my body, but I could literally like go up out of my body and like go somewhere else and come back.
Yeah.
And I was not raised in a family who had any understanding of that. And so it wasn't really fostered, but I always remember, like I can remember growing up and we always had like a cat or a dog in the home and it just was never a weird thing to me. Like I always remember feeling like I could just understand animals. And it's not like I heard their voices in my head or anything, but it's like I just sort of knew what was going on and how to engage and be with them. And I don't know that that ever left me, but I think growing up in a very blue collar, boots on the ground family, I felt like a very sensitive kid. I didn't really understand why people behaved the way they did around me. I just
Mm,
assumed that my experience of the world and my perception of reality was normal. And that created so much conflict, like internal conflict in my life,
mm,
that really left me feeling like, well, clearly there must be something wrong with me because I'm sensitive and I feel things, and the world around me feels really abrasive. And I think one of the most profound moments that where I took a very conscious step on my spiritual path was when I was about 17. I was a junior in high school. My brother was a senior. He was in a very severe car accident
mm,
that almost killed him, and it did kill somebody else. And watching how that totally fractured and shattered my family, I just remember at about 17 having this moment of, I don't believe in a God or a universe if it is loving. Like, if God or spirit or source is truly loving, then this didn't happen just because. Like, this can't be random. There has to be a deeper purpose. And that just kind of piqued my spiritual curiosity. I was never really drawn to religion. So, like, in my own quiet way, I was sort of exploring like intuitives and, working with angelics. And I went through college, I went through undergraduate. I knew from a very young age I wanted to do chiropractic work on animals. So I went through and became a human chiropractor and lived a pretty conventional life. I mean, I always had like this quiet spiritual side, and I was like very spiritually curious, but I really kept it under wraps. And once I graduated from chiropractic school, I immediately went into my animal chiropractic program. And I would say the second big spiritual evolution in my life was when I actually started practicing on horses. And what would start to happen is I would put my hands on their body, and they would start to show me images in my mind of like literally the inside of their body, like what was actually wrong. And then they would actually show me like the event that caused it. And then what made it even weirder for me is they would show me like the energetic connection to their human. And like sometimes that was good and
mm,
sometimes it wasn't good.
mhm,
So at the time, I didn't really know what to do with all of that other than I would just kind of ask their humans. It's like, hey, did this, whatever I was seeing, I would just ask if kind of relaying that event. And more of that got confirmed, which is how I opened into doing animal communication. I had several intuitives that have told me you're an animal communicator, and I always thought like, oh, that's great. Like that sounds really cool. But I expected like I would hear like their voice in my head, like much like you and I are talking. And for me, it primarily came through like a knowing
mhm,
and through images in my mind. And so I probably about 4 or 5 years into my animal chiropractic career, I was like sort of covertly playing with my skill set and like trying to refine how I communicated with animals. And my mom was diagnosed with a very severe form of bone cancer. And a friend of mine from chiropractic school told me, he was like, I just went and saw a shaman. I think you would be kind of into it. I think you should call this person and give it a shot. I had no idea what shamans,
mm,
I didn't really know anything about it, but I felt this really strong pull of like, you need to do this. And I had a session, and it was one of those really life-changing moments where all of my intuitive senses got really confirmed in that
mm,
session. And for me, it was a way of honoring like nature and spirit and the animals, and how do you work with spiritual energy in a way that made sense to me. So I went and did a really intensive 2 year training in shamanism purely just for my own. I did it for my own spiritual development with no intention of bringing that in any way, like professionally, to the world. And as I was going through, I'm like, we're learning how to do these soul retrievals and energy healings for people. And I was like, well, I just wonder if you can do it on an animal. Like, why not?
mhm,
And I just started kind of utilizing that same process with really profound, results for the horses and for their humans. And I've been doing animal chiropractic work for 18 years, primarily working with really high performance horses. And I've had clients go to the Olympics and the World Equestrian Games. And I have always, I would say, since I really started doing more of the animal communication and the energy healing, it's always been the wish of my heart that I'm like, this actually feels like the place where I can do the most good. And at least in my experience being in this high performance world, I can do a lot of this work very covertly. But people really, at the end of the day, they just want the horse to be able to perform no matter what.
Mhm.
And I feel like as my soul and my heart engagement gets deeper and deeper with the animal kingdom, and the more that I've opened to the majesty that these animals are and the spiritual healing and gifts that they're offering us, I've started to feel the separation of like, I can't just treat the physical body and send these horses on without the humans being really disconnected. So in 2020, between COVID, the universe, my husband got a job offer and we left California and we moved to Washington State and we bought a farm. My horses are all at home and I still go to California to do chiropractic work once a month, but I've really opened into, I call it animal soul channeling, where really doing healing sessions for humans and their animals, where I channel the wisdom of their soul and the deeper
Mhm.
purpose, like for animals, for why they're coming into certain people's lives, why certain events happen, and the soul contracts and the belief systems between the animals and the humans. And that's what I feel like is really my soul's work and my soul's journey. I feel like it's dropped me to my knees in the most beautiful, reverent way of I feel this deeper alignment of these animals are our spiritual masters. And it's what I want people, or it's my hope that people will open their hearts and their minds to understanding that we have all these little Buddhas in cute, fluffy forms, like living in our
Yes.
lives that are here to teach us. And if we're open, and when we make those conscious connections and those conscious engagements, really magical things can happen.
You have
So,
such an amazing energy.
oh,
And
thank you.
I meet so many people and so many wonderful people, but there's just such a
Yeah.
deepness to your energy.
Oh,
And so
thank
I can
you.
see why you would connect in that
Yeah.
way. It's incredible. And just
Thank you.
the way that you speak of the work
Yeah.
and the way that it unfolded for you.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to thank you for sharing that
Oh,
because
thank you.
people, and as the world's waking up and you and I are doing our work in
Mhm.
the world, as many others are,
Yeah.
it's not a typical topic. It might be a
No.
topic that gets eyes rolled, or
Oh,
people are like,
yeah.
really? I mean, I've experienced that because
Yeah.
I interviewed another person who does something similar but different than you and a completely different energy.
Hmm.
Um, and I said I was interviewing this person. And it was like somebody said, "Oh my gosh, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, really. Like this is the way in which our universe is connected. This is the way that we
Yeah.
communicate on a soul level. Like there's so much more than just meets the eye and everything that you've been taught and conditioned
Yeah.
into from your birth on this planet. And it's
Yeah.
time to change and to be able to see new
Yeah.
ways of supporting and learning and healing and living, working, like all of it.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like you must have been, I don't know how to say this. You must have been deeply connected
Yeah.
in another way to this animal work, like many times in your lifetimes,
Yeah.
and
It
it realized
feels
itself.
like a return to stewardship.
Yeah,
And that's sort of, I think much like you said, like we're all on our spiritual journeys and we're all having an experience from different vantage points.
yeah,
But to me, it's all about, at least like the way I approach it is like we're all here to steward one another. We're all here to steward the earth. We're all here to steward the animal kingdom. And it's really about like how do we come into right relationship with that? And something that I feel like I'm always telling people when I do get the skeptics and the eye rolls, and I'm like, just because something doesn't communicate and speak the way that we do, it doesn't mean that it's lacking consciousness. It doesn't mean that
mhm,
it's lacking sentience, which is like the ability to feel. And I even have this conversation with my husband sometime. I'm like, if you encountered a being that you knew was telepathic, was very spiritually connected and wasn't limited by linear space and time and could connect to other bodies and lifetimes that we had. I'm like, would you see that as being less than like a human? And he was like, well, absolutely not. I'm like, well, welcome to the animal kingdom. They don't have
yes,
vocal cords, but the communication is still there.
hmm
And to me, that feels like such an important leap, I think, for humans in our spiritual conscious evolution is when we see everything around us as alive and conscious, it forces us, like we have
Mhm.
to be more in our heart. I think it forces people to accept the level of responsibility that we have for our actions, and Lord knows that's uncomfortable for all of us. Like we have all, I'm sure, can look back and go like, ugh, we've
Mhm.
had some unconscious moments in our life, but I don't know, for me, it's just such a heart-opening experience to be able to walk outside and even to see like the trees on my property as conscious and alive. And I'm like, they're my allies and they're my friends. Like
Mhm.
they are here for us. And that is so deeply nourishing. And I just, in any way that I can, want to open people's awareness. And I'm like, if the idea of an animal talking to you or being a spiritual teacher is too much, and I'm like, just go out and connect with a tree. Like, just go
Yeah.
stare at it and tell a tree how beautiful it is. And I promise, like, something will happen. Something will happen within you.
It's so true. That's my favorite thing to do. I talk to them all the
Yeah.
time. I even
Yeah.
have a favorite tree. We drive down this one road and it's barren.
Hmm.
It has just these wiggly, someone might call it ugly. It's my favorite tree. And
Yeah.
I said hi to it today. Like I always have to say hello, beautiful, or whatever it is, or admire it
Yeah.
because it stands on this great piece of ground with this white picket fence all around it and traffic
Yeah.
everywhere. But it's almost like taking care of the land right there and kind of a
Hmm.
protector or something. It's interesting to me. And it's
Yeah.
all perspective, right? So
Absolutely.
when the first time, can you talk about maybe one of your first experiences of understanding information that was coming to you from the beginning of your work? That would be fascinating to
Yeah.
hear.
So it's definitely been an evolution, and it's been such a reminder of why we call these things a practice.
Yeah.
I think, early, at least when I was consciously making, like, acknowledging that, okay, like, I'm pretty sure I can connect, and really putting energy into that. It feels like it's a massive vulnerability, even to open to other people and to talk about this type of work. Um, but even just to open yourself, because there is a part of you where you start feeling and seeing things and you're like, oh my God, am I crazy? Like, am I making this up? And I think that's a very
Mhm.
normal part of all of us as intuitive beings. For me, like one of the profound things was when I started to realize how information comes into my body. Like there is
Mhm.
actually there's a feeling to it, and sometimes it's subtle, but there is a feeling of how information kind of lands in my system that once I was able to kind of attune into that and to trust that, it's become like this magnetic force that has picked up. And I know that you channel,
Mhm.
and it's kind of evolved from like me putting my hands on a horse's body and getting pictures and getting like little bursts of information to then with like trusted friends having them give me their animal's picture and a list of questions and like free writing, just writing
Mhm.
out whatever came forward. And for me, that was such a critical step was finding trusted people that I could explore this with where I knew I
Yeah.
wasn't going to be judged. And then it kind of, it's really just been about 4 years ago, evolved to like doing stuff over the phone. And I found like as soon as I open sacred space, I have a prayer that I say. And if I close my eyes and do a heart connection, I don't know if you feel this way, but it's like when I can find that thread of energy, it's like trying to drink from a fire hose. It's like the information starts coming and it's like, oh my God, it's like buckle up and hold on.
Yes.
But the animals have taken me on like this incredible journey of even talking about like where they come from in the cosmos, like where do their collective consciousnesses come from, and like what are the energies that they're bringing here on the planet. And they've drawn me into this deeper understanding that each animal species is here working with the grid of Mother Earth, like anchoring consciousness into the earth. That we as humans, when we have an intention or when we ground and connect with the earth, we have access to all of this higher vibrational wisdom. So I feel like to me, this is one of my favorite parts of the spiritual journey. It's like you kind of start to open and it's amazing. And it's like the more you know, the more you realize you know nothing, but you kind of know stuff. um, And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it feels like such an honor and a privilege to be taught by the natural world, and to begin to make these really conscious connections of how like everything is connected. Like we are all living in a giant universal web. Like we all are connected to one
Mhm.
another. And I'm just really excited for more and more humans on the planet. If, I mean, for me, the greater wish is like obviously to have a greater sense of humanity, harmony, and connection within
Mhm.
humanity. But really, I think for humans as an individual, like this cannot bring you, it can't not bring you into a deeper place into your heart. And I feel like that is what I wish for every being on this planet is to experience the beauty and the majesty of our heart. And for me, the quickest pathway through that is loving and having reverence for whether it's animals, plants, like the beauty of the world that we get to exist on. So
I just love it. Well,
thanks.
you know how you said there was, you've got this little furry creature that is teaching you, that is
Yeah.
allowing you to have a greater understanding of love. That's my little puppy who's behind my
Mhm.
screen,
Yeah.
laying on the bed over there.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted another dog. I knew it
Mhm.
wasn't time. I wasn't a channeler yet. I was tapping into all my senses, but I
Mhm.
knew it wasn't time. And I would
Yeah.
say, I think it's getting closer. And then it
Yeah.
would be another year. I think it's getting closer. And then
Mhm.
then it was just like, it's time.
Yeah.
And I knew that little bundle of love and fur was opening my heart to a
Yep.
relationship and a commitment
Yeah.
because I wasn't ready for a relationship and a commitment. So that was an expression of saying, okay, universe, I'm ready for that. And I also
Yeah.
need an anchor to help me open it. And
Yeah.
it's like the energetic conviction, the anchor to open it and to support that love space in my heart
Mhm.
allowed my beloved to come in. And
It's
there's like,
amazing.
it's amazing, right?
Yep.
And there's so many things that we don't understand. We don't
Mhm.
understand why we're being pulled in different directions. We don't understand the purpose of things. But I
Yeah.
say all the time that he is holding space for me. He is a little battery, a little charger, it's
Yep.
source energy that is emitting
Mhm.
this frequency that's helping me with my work, in my daily
Yeah.
life, with my situations that come up every
Yeah.
day. There's a different situation.
Mhm.
And so he's working hard all the
Yeah.
time, but he doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I just did a session with this beautiful cat this morning that, has been hospitalized for some health issues and, really getting down to the deeper reason of why this, why now. It
Mm,
was really to bring his humans like they needed. There's just a lot happening in their outer world. And it was just a reminder that the love that you experience over this potential loss or just sitting in what is happening is meant to bring you deeper into your heart in every way. So you can
yeah.
see like all of the outer chaos, you can view it from a different place. And
Mhm.
I don't know how we can't be not eternally grateful,
Yeah. Yeah.
for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you say that you're able to see the experience,
Mhm.
for there's a physical trauma in, for example, a horse, and you're
Mhm.
able to see the experience that's associated with that,
Mhm.
are you able to heal the experience that's associated with their person, with their human? Like, I just find it so
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, and the ways that I do that have evolved over time. And for me, a lot of it is, for whatever reason, it's reasonably easy for me to see inside of a being.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily know how or why. It's just like a frequency I can tune into,
Hmm.
and it's just there. So for me, like often they'll show me an event and then I can energetically kind of go through the body and see, like, is this anchored? Like, it could be in the central nervous system, it could be in a muscle group or in an organ system. And then I often talk to the body as its own consciousness. So we've got the entirety of the being. And I feel like this is kind of the direction my work is moving in. It's like, all right, well, if this experience is being held as fear in a kidney,
Hmm.
I can create space and create the environment to allow the energy to move. But then it's like, well, but then you go back to the physical body, like asking the kidney in its own consciousness, what is it that you need to heal? So I've kind of moved away from a lot of traditional soul contract work and belief system work and soul retrieval work. And really, it's like literally tapping into the universal expression within the body
Mhm.
And I feel like giving the conscious being, so the soul of the animal, permission, but also giving the physical body permission to release something and heal. And literally asking the body, it's like, okay, well, what can I facilitate, or what do you need me to hold space for in this healing? Instead of me just coming in and doing a process.
Right. Yeah.
It feels really empowering to everybody involved. And I feel like it's something we lose sight of with animals and even with our physical form,
Mhm.
is asking permission and also giving consent
Mhm.
of, like with my own body, like when health stuff comes up, like actually asking my physical body, it's like, well, what do you need? Instead of like me as a human trying to figure it out.
Right. Going for
And
the
it may not be
Advil.
what I think.
Right.
Um, so for me, it's kind of turned into more of like, how can I direct universal flow throughout my body, but like giving these experiences permission and even asking the body and the being, like, are you ready to let this go?
Mhm.
Usually it's a yes, and sometimes it's a no.
Mhm.
The hard part is then honoring that, when I've got a different agenda or idea, which I feel like is the common human condition of like, we kind of want things to heal and be resolved, but sometimes we have to, part of the healing process is just sitting with what is, or
Mhm.
there's something in the experience of an injury or an illness that we need. Like that experience is actually part of the healing. Um, so where things get a little tricky, because like I can go in on like a horse and I can see this connection to the human, but if the human isn't on board, then I
Mhm.
can only help the horse, because I do have I really hold the integrity of like, it is not my place to come in and start doing energy work on a human that's not consenting.
Mhm.
But I can create the space within the horse to allow whatever healing process to happen. And if I feel like the human is open, we can talk about it and we can go through that process. Or I can just help the animal get as, congruent as they can possibly be, because that is absolutely going to shift the dynamic with their human. And more often than not, that will already start the ball rolling, and whatever relationship issue or energy issue needs to be resolved.
It's so
So,
interesting. I'm
yeah.
I'm I'm trying to relate it to an experience that I had when I did a shamanic journey and a soul retrieval.
Okay.
And so it was, there was something from this life, there was something from a very
Hmm.
specific past life, and I had to, integrate the
Yeah.
retrieved pieces. And that
Hmm.
was a very specific process. It took a certain amount of time and a lot of intention and energy.
Hmm.
And I think with animals, their vibration and their frequency is so much higher than ours as
Yeah.
well. So it's like they're not holding on to, we have so many things happening inside of our consciousness, our body, our minds, our
Yeah.
we're just different beings completely. And that was my question. You sort of answered it with what you just
Yeah.
said.
I feel like
Yeah,
as humans, like how we perceive the world around us, and I think the amount of complexity and stress that we have created, in our life, I find animals just aren't anchored into that in the same way.
right.
And in a way that I don't fully understand, but, you know, cats in particular, I feel like cats and horses are really energetically just very clear channels, in that they say like they're connected to every physical form that they've had. So even if there's like a past life connection, it's like ringing a bell. It's like as soon as you bring awareness to it, their ability to let something go and to let that really move through their body, they
Hmm.
just don't have they don't have all the mental resistance that we do. I feel like the human mind wants to know how or why, and then we judge
Yeah,
it, and then we
right.
deny
All
it,
of
and
it.
then we maybe accept it. Where for them, it's just a very clear channel. And to
Hmm.
me, it's just because, I mean, we could look at it from purely from a neurological perspective, and their prefrontal cortex is just it's much smaller, and it's just very different. So
Hmm.
I feel like their ability to exist in the now
Hmm.
is really sophisticated and highly online. Um, and I feel like too, all things in nature want to be in harmony. And I
Hmm.
think that's something as humans, like we really don't understand what it means to be in harmony in our own body and in our
Mm,
own form, where the animals, it's like they really want that. And their
yes.
pathway to that is pretty clear. So
Yeah.
if we just allow the opportunity, it typically shifts pretty quickly.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
guides just really resonated with they just bowed their head because they
Yeah.
talk about us as humans fighting, fighting, fighting,
Yeah.
fighting all the time, not understanding our divinity,
Yep.
and that we don't have to fight. It's
Yep.
not how we were intended to live our lives. And they talk about
Yeah.
harmony all the time. And
Yeah.
so they just love that. I can't control it. Sometimes they just will
Yeah.
get excited about the
Yeah.
conversation. But I also laughed because in my house, my boyfriend loves the shenanigans of cats. So he'll watch videos of cats just and when
Uh-huh.
you said in the now, in my mind I kept hearing here and now, here and now. They're just here and now constantly. So
Yeah.
they are not they're not getting upset with getting pounded on the head by their
Yeah.
fellow cat.
Yeah.
I have a funny story though. Since I was a child,
Mm,
I get upset, I get disturbed, I get unsettled around huskies and
interesting.
German shepherds. So
Hmm.
there's obviously some sort of an energetic
Hmm.
experience that's lingering with me from a
Hmm.
past life or something.
Yeah.
And I don't feel safe around them. I
Hmm.
get triggered by them. I don't even like to look at them, which is
Yeah.
interesting, right?
Super
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. It's very specific to those two breeds.
Yeah.
And
And
I-
what I think is really interesting too, like, especially with dogs and even with horses, like different breeds have their own, I would say, like collective consciousness and their own lineage and
Mm,
history that they bring with it. So as you're talking, I'm like, oh, that feels very like old past life.
mhm,
And, you know,
mhm,
Huskies, like that's a very indigenous way of being. That's, they've worked in high alignment with humanity in a very indigenous sense. They're very intense, survival based animals. German Shepherds really are war dogs. They were used as weapons for a long time. And if you look through
Ooh.
like a lot of German history, I mean, it's intense. I mean, that makes my spine tingle too. It's like, it's
Yeah.
really intense.
Mhm,
So those animals, those breeds can also hold those echoes of energy through time. And I think it's why so many of us, we can be drawn to certain breeds. We can have certain like deep energetic alignments, either good or
mhm,
bad.
mhm.
um, so yeah, I mean, it's a real thing. Like horses have talked to me a lot. I work with a lot of horses that come over like from Europe and from other countries. And they talk about how like the energetic connections like in different parts of the world are very different. And some of them deeply grieve like leaving their homeland and like the heart
Mm,
connections that they have there. And they do carry certain energetics and personality traits that echo the cultures that they come from. And
yeah.
I think it's important for us as humans, like it is something we should pay attention to,
Mhm.
when we're attracting certain animals into our lives.
I do
But
believe that. I
yeah.
had a dream of my dog. Now,
Hmm.
I wasn't purposefully looking for this breed. It wasn't anything I'd ever thought about in my life prior. I had a
Yeah.
Vizsla, which was a Hungarian hunting dog
Wow.
for
Yeah.
14 years, and he was intense, but he was
Mm.
lovely. But I had a dream of these two Prince Charles Cavaliers. It was a Blenheim and a Tri, and they were walking up a new construction with a mom and a dad,
Mhm.
and I thought, that's the dog I'm supposed to get. That's the dog I'm
Mhm.
supposed to get. I didn't research them. I just knew
Yeah.
this dog is so unique. They're so kind and loving and
Yeah.
gentle and sweet. And they hug. They actually hug. They put their paws on either side of you and they hug you. And I was like, it's actually a thing. And he just got up and he's coming over. But
They're
that's what
extraordinary
they're
dogs. Yeah.
extraordinary, and that's what I
Yeah.
needed at this
Yeah.
moment in my life. This is exactly what I needed, and the guides,
Yeah.
I wasn't really working with the guides then, but they would
Yeah.
show me images of pivotal
That's
things in my
amazing.
life. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, I found him. I needed to find the same experience with a heart-based breeder. The
Mhm.
whole idea of breeding was upsetting to me, and I didn't know how to navigate it. And then
Yeah.
there was this, I tried to do everything I could to do what I thought I was supposed to do, but I should have just listened. And
Yeah.
this person was put in front of me, and this beautiful woman who had never bred before, and they were the first puppies from her own dogs. And shortly after, my neighbor across the street got the next litter, and so my dog is a Tri, and the
Mhm.
Blenheim moved across the street. It was a new construction, and so the brothers. It was my dream. It was
It's
basically my
amazing.
dream.
That's
Yeah, and
amazing.
I don't think I'd ever be able to have another kind of animal ever again in
Yeah.
my life. That he's so special to me.
That's amazing. Well, we have
Yeah.
two Persian cats, and I kind of went through the
Um,
same thing of like, I mean, I'm a total cat person. And shortly after, well, I would say the week before I met my husband, I had had a cat for 17 years and she passed away. And my husband, even though he had like bottle fed babe, kittens and stuff, he said like he really didn't want a cat in the house. We had been together for about a year and a half, and I kind of had a meltdown one day, and I'm like, I can't live without a cat in my life. And so I started looking because I was looking for like the right cat. And I was like, oh, like I love Persian cats. Like they are pretty special, but I'm like, again, like the breeders, and I'm like, oh, is that ethical and all of the things. And anyway, we have two, and they're like the most magical,
Yeah.
they're very intended and like perfect for us. But I feel really
Mhm.
called to like tell your audience, I think for all of the dog lovers out in the world, one of the main spiritual gifts and energies that dogs are bringing onto the planet is they're here to work in high alignment with the heart space of humanity. All animals are, but dogs do it. I mean, they really do radiate love from the heart of God, like out through their heart space. So they do have a very high intention of just reflecting universal, like unconditional love. Um, yeah, it's a really, we just got a dog. I haven't had a dog for like 30 years, and we got one this year. And I'm like, God, it's so different from like cat energy and
Yeah.
cat love. It's just so in your face and like
Yeah.
exuberant,
Oh, yeah.
wonderful, heart-filled
It's
love.
wonderful. It's really
Yeah.
wonderful. I think
Yeah.
this has been my favorite podcast episode of all time, just so you know.
Oh,
And
thank
I,
you.
I, I've never said that before. It's the first time. So you get that.
Yeah.
I just loved it. And I just think it's so fascinating. And I can't wait to share it with everyone because I feel
Thank
like
you.
there's a new perspective and people
Mhm.
people will really learn something from this. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to find out more about your work? Do you have a podcast? Do you have a website? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, so my website, it's just my name. It's tracyrainwaters.com. And then the other great way to find me is primarily on Instagram, and I'm at dr.rainwaters through Instagram. Yes, and a lot of my shorter form content, even longer form stuff is, on Instagram. But yeah, my website's,
Yeah,
all of my information. I teach online classes on animal communication and channeling. And I do one-on-one sessions for people, and all of my information is there.
that's excellent. That's excellent. Well, I want to thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining me and sharing your story with our community. And I want everyone to know, um, remember with every moment lies the call to listen to your spirit. That's what we're here talking about today is listening to your spirit. Always answer it, honor it, but always live the call. Always live it with your life. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you next time. And thank you so much, Dr. Rainwaters.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope today's episode sparked insights for you on your healing journey. If you're searching for support and connection, you should join our community at spirit-calling.com. Spirit Calling is a like-minded community of spiritual individuals learning, sharing, and growing together every day. No matter what you're experiencing in your journey, you'll find resources and a community to support you along the way. Until next time, keep listening to your internal guidance and stepping into your spirit's call.